Hey, hoes. Welcome back for another episode of Hoeology Podcast. This is your host, Destiny. Today's episode is going to be very special. I am going to be joined by a very special guest, and we are going to be talking about intentional intimacy. So, I would like to introduce Crystal. Crystal, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm Crystal Heyyyy, creator and founder of the Planner. The Planner is a luxury niche planner designed to help couples prioritize their love life. Trying to be more simple, it's like your traditional planner, except it's sex focused.
I love that. I love that. I feel like, first of all, this is so needed. Like, people think that, you're in a relationship or you're married or whatever, and like sex is it just comes, like it's natural. But sometimes it's not. And sometimes you need new ideas and sometimes you need inspiration. So, how, I guess, did you come to this idea of like, let me create a sex planner itself?
Yes, so that is the narrative that I kind of want to change. That it's like it's okay to plan out your intimacy.
Mhm.
When you go to marriage therapists, couple therapists, they all recommend it. And that was kind of my journey, how I decided to do this planner, just being in counseling, and then research that I did. So many sex therapists recommend scheduling out your date night, scheduling out sex,
Mhm.
scheduling. And when I went to the market, I seen all these planners for like fitness focus or fitness focus planner or pursue your passions, but there was nothing to pursue your love and sex goals. So that's why I
Yeah.
created it. And coming back to that changing the dynamic, this whole as I promote the planner and discuss it, that's kind of like the mindset that comes up. People are fearful, or they think it's too robotic, or they think that there's issues when you have to map out your love life. But I view it the same as if you have business goals, you're mapping that out. If you have
Right.
fitness goals, you're mapping that out. So there's nothing wrong with planning your love life. It shows that you're intentional, you're focused, and that's something that you're dedicated to for both yourself and your partner.
I agree. I think that, people forget that life happens, so you have this goal of what sex should be, and then you have life, and life will humble you real quick. So I
Right.
no, I think life will just, it doesn't present as many opportunities as you would think that it would or should. So I think being intentional with your intimacy in whatever form that they may be is needed.
Right.
So
I think it's not prioritized as much.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
we like media kind of tends to tell us that sex should be spontaneous. It should happen on a whim. You should just like be able to do it. But like when you're younger, you don't have as many responsibilities. As you get
Yes.
older, you do. Like you have work, you have kids, and especially for women, it's so easy to put intimacy on the back burner as we prioritize everything else except our pleasure.
Yeah.
And the focus of the planet is to prioritize, like don't leave that. Like as life get messy, still your intimacy and your pleasure is part of your life. So it should
Yeah.
be equally as important as fitness meetings, as little Timmy soccer game, as your spouse work event. It should be equally as important as
Yeah.
that. Being pleasure yourself and also pleasuring your partner.
I think it's tough though. Like, I can say that yes, you should prioritize intimacy, but it can be tough with that like accountability aspect where
Uh-huh.
you're just saying like, oh, like it'll happen. Oh, like, I'm not thinking about it right now because, like you said, for women, it's different. For us, I feel like it's mental. So I can't think about sex if I'm thinking about, oh, the dishes aren't done downstairs. Oh, the kids got to go to school. Like, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the kids. I'm thinking about school. I'm thinking about the dishes. Like, so I think women, in a sense, have to have like some accountability and say, dang, I didn't prioritize my intimacy with my partner. I didn't, put my own intimacy first. I prioritize X, Y, and Z and put myself last. And part of putting yourself last is putting that intimacy last.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's tough.
I will add to yeah, we take on the bulk of like household responsibilities. A lot of women are like breadwinners. They're juggling multiple things.
Hmm.
But I also add as a factor into that guilt and shame that women kind of like place on ourselves, and
We
also
do. We do.
society. Yeah, also society plays on us too. And you got to think historically. Historically, we weren't even really allowed to like have intimacy or have our own pleasure. We didn't have the autonomy of having our own pleasure. Our bodies were used for making babies, food for the babies, and men's pleasure. And it's just like this modern philosophy now, or since birth control came on the scene, where women can now take ownership of their own sexuality, their own pleasure. And we're
Right.
still kind of getting used to that. Like I think as
Yeah.
we pull away from that old thought process, it becomes very taboo. And there's a guilt and shame associated with saying that, like, I want pleasure too. Like, I want to be pleased in the bedroom. I want to show up. And that that's kind of like it's easy for us to put that to the side because we feel guilty, like we feel shame and guilty by saying like, hey, I want to be pleased. And I think it's as important as everything else that I have going on.
Yeah. So I guess is part of that mindset what led to the creation of this journal?
Yes, it is. Just me being like relying a lot on planners to coordinate, like I said, everything else that we do. But I wanted to keep like stay focused. Uh, it contributes to a lot, like create the creativity, getting out of the mundane stuff. So sometimes we become bored.
Yeah.
So in the planner, that's why I have certain things. Have like intimacy questions to ask your partner, creative date ideas. Then weekly, a new position to try weekly. Also, sex holidays because there are a lot
Yes.
of fun holidays. Yeah, there are a lot of fun holidays we don't even know about, like compliment day or
Yeah.
hugging day. Some men know about the steak and blowjob day, but like don't wear panties day. So I thought those were really fun. And the busy aspect of it to address that is like where to do a quickie section. So I list out all these different places each month where you can sneak and like get it in if you're short on time.
Yeah. I love that. First of all, I love that it's real because you said something earlier and it kind of just resonated with how in movies and TV it's like they have this idea of like the spontaneity is so common. Like, oh, you come home from work and you're just right then and there, and like that's not how it is. Or you've had a long day and all of a sudden, there's your perfect person and it's just instant. And it's like that's not how it is. So I think that with this idea of like perfect sex, it puts pressure on regular
Mhm.
people because they're like, well, it was in the movies, so maybe that's what it's supposed to be like. But really, like, you have to make it work for you and your partner, or
Right.
just you.
You hear those like birds chirping in the background and the flute playing. And it's just this lovely thing.
Right.
Right, definitely. And also for the longevity of relationships too. And I seen this like meme of J. Cole kind of addressing this too. And like initially he states that when you found your perfect person, it is beautiful. You're in this like lovey-dovey state where you're all over each other. But then like we grasp or we seem to think that we always gonna stay in that moment. We always
Right.
gonna be in this honeymoon phase of your relationship, and it's gonna be like that forever. But no, as the years go by, you change as a person. You have added things on your plate. So
Yeah.
like you're not the same person you are at 35 that you were at 25 or 45 that you were at 35. So you change as a person. And that takes in order to like keep that longevity and love alive, that takes intentionality. And like in that meme, I love it so much because he asked like how many dates did this person have to go on? How many love notes that they have to write? He's like, how many times did they have to learn to fall back in love with their person and to stay in love? And like
Yeah.
in real life, that takes effort.
It does. It does. I know, like for myself and my husband, like the intentional side of it was something that neither of us considered. Like you have to choose to like make the effort to, like you said, write love notes or ask your partner, are they still interested in X, Y, and Z? And maybe a year ago you wanted to do monogamy, but now you're like, well, I'm kind of curious about, ethical non-monogamy. Like it, but having those conversations and like having that honesty is so important in relationships. But I think the foundation of it all is to just be intentional about it.
Yes, yes, definitely. And we like going to counseling things. It's so easy to say, "Oh, I'm going to do it," or it's something I was getting around to, or it's gonna happen when it happens. But
Right.
when the planner aspect of it is when you write certain things down, it becomes more actionable. You are
Right.
more likely to do it when you have it right, like when you have it written down. And
Hmm.
it does hold yourself accountable. On this date, I have a date plan. On this date, I have to buy this freaky underwear because it's something that I think I want to do next week. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think too. So like my husband and I are in like marriage counseling because we wanted to be sure that no matter what, our communication was like it. So even if I may say something and he may not understand it, in our therapy session, our therapist can break it down for both of us to understand. But I think, well, if you hear that you have to schedule sex, you may think like negatively about that, but it could actually work out in both of your favors because you don't have to think about it. He don't have to think about it. You're both coming to the table and saying like, I'm choosing to do this.
right, it's planned out, and that's the framework, like the thought process of
Yeah.
applying it to your love life, because we do it in so many other things. So,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
when you have a business goal, we map out like what do we want to achieve, our mission statement and things like that. But people have a hard time kind of applying that to their love life. Like,
Yeah.
okay, as we as this union, these are the things I want to accomplish, or these are the needs that I need met. Like if you are a quality time person, how much time I need X amount of time each week. How are you going to fit that in?
Yeah. And another thing I think too is like people, when you're having conversations about needs in relationship, people forget sex and sexuality. And it's kind
Hmm.
of just one of those things where I like to say when you go and have sex with someone for the first time, people treat your body like the last body. Like
Oh.
people don't have conversations about, well, what do you like? What don't you like?
Hmm.
Because people are afraid to hurt others' feelings or to give constructive criticism. But when you're not having those conversations, nobody is getting pleased.
You're miserable.
Yeah, I feel like people are afraid to say what they do and don't like out of fear of like rejection. You know what I mean? Like or
Hmm.
feeling embarrassed.
Hmm.
So I think that having like a strong foundation, because I feel like your workbook could be not even just for couples, it can be for yourself. Like, obviously, the positions, you're going to need a new person, but for most of it, you can discover new things about yourself that you like or things that you're interested in trying. And yeah, go from there.
Definitely. So the sex planner is just a start. The sex planner is just a start. I
Yeah.
have multiple versions coming out. I already have the solo acts or self love planner written and is in production right now. So hopefully it'll be out in the next few months. But that's all about solo love, both physically and mentally addressing the aspects of you all around. People get stuck on the title, the sex planner, or the sex part of the sex planner.
Yeah.
But sex is really intimacy.
Right.
And people got to understand that sex is just the physical part. The intimacy incorporates everything. It incorporates emotionally how you feel, the things that you do for one another, the conversations. So
Right.
the planner does facilitate not just the sex with positions, but a whole host of things. It has a place to the senses section where it teaches you how or give you suggestions on how to set the mood, and it's something for each sense. something to look at, something to smell, something to talk about, how to touch your partner, like if there's any new touches you want to incorporate. So it's whole body.
Mhm.
Mentally, the intimate questions part of it, and then, the date night and things like that. And also reflection. What did I like? What did I didn't like? What surprised me this month?
Yeah,
Some things
yeah.
that I did. So yeah, the sex part is great. The physical part is great, but it really incorporates all aspects of intimacy.
I think that's like an important distinction to make too. I didn't really understand like that intimacy was more than sex until I met my partner, and I was just like, oh, because you hear intimacy, you think sex. But when you're like more educated and you're more grounded in what you feel, as far as like the entire picture of what sex and different types of sex is and are, you're
Hmm.
like, oh, intimacy is so much more. It's the conversation, it's the buildup, it is the physical act, it's the aftercare, it's like everything in between. Like intimacy is so important, and like I think too, it's important to acknowledge that like intimacy doesn't just occur after like these perfect situations. That intimacy can occur after trauma, after like infidelity,
Hmm.
after any type of situation. So I feel like, speaking from personal experience, that this situation such as yours, where you're creating this like guidebook of like, let's, basically start from the foundation of it, it can be that healing element of, we might have experienced infidelity, or we might have experienced a distrust, or, trauma. We can still rebuild.
Yes, yes, that's so true. They're so true. With all the different levels of intimacy,
Yeah,
also like intimacy is so personal. It's
it
so
is.
personal to you. It's so personal to your partner or partners in the relationship that you guys have. So it's also like important not to view one person's relationship and try to have those things
Yeah,
apply to this to this relationship.
yeah,
um, it also, you need to acknowledge how you change throughout the years, or change like you're not the same person in each relationship either. You
yeah,
become different as a reaction to who you're partnered with. So like the intimacy part, really discovering what it means to yourself and what it means to your partner, is important to go ahead and address those things and really like dive deep. A huge thing with diving deep and being candid and having those broad conversations too, is building a safe space for a person to be able to do that. That's
yeah,
a big part of the foundation, because if you don't feel safe, you feel like you're going to be judged or criticized, you're not going to share, you're not going to be vulnerable. So you're not having honest conversations when you have those walls up. And also, if a person wants that, it's their responsibility to kind of help you build, like help you take down those walls too.
yeah. I agree. So I do you feel like this planner essentially like opens up that world for people?
It does indeed.
Yeah.
It does indeed. And a lot, I'm like, haha, that's what it does. The perfect wording for it. It
Yeah.
does. It does. All the different features of it kind of helps facilitate those conversations. Whether it's just like a celebratory, hey, let's celebrate this day, particular day, or we diving deep into these questions. The play to the senses part really like help you set the mood where you're in a comfortable, relaxed
Yeah.
environment. Yeah, comfortable, relaxed environment where you can have those facilitate those conversations.
Yeah. I know for me, like I struggle with turning my brain off sometimes. Like I struggle with just like not thinking about the 10 million other things that are going on. Like I got work going on, I got friendship stuff I got to deal with, I got who the hell knows. But it is a struggle sometimes to just turn your brain off and be present. And like I feel like with being intentional in your intimacy, being present is all you need. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you just need to be there to see that, like, okay, this person wants me, I want
Mhm.
this, like,
Right.
or whatever, even if it's solo, like I deserve this.
Yes, I deserve it. Yeah, and also it's all about environment. Sometimes you're not able to be in person with your
Yes.
person, but there still means because of technology, there still means to still make that person feel important and
Mhm.
feel safe. Just to let them know that you're thinking about them. Sometimes that's just like,
Yeah.
oh, I got this little spicy text throughout the day.
Yeah. I
Just
tell my
knowing that,
husband that all the
yeah,
time.
just knowing that like I'm on your mind, or
Yeah.
okay, I know she doesn't feel like cooking, sending some takeout, like ordering some Uber Eats or things like that. So it's
Yeah.
so many ways that you could still be present without physically being there. Um,
Right.
yeah, um, I know some people like have a hard time with grasping. Well, I'm not in person or I'm not there, but it's still things that you can do to show that
Yeah.
show your person that you still care about them. You know, even
Yeah.
if it's something as simple as a compliment on the through via text message.
Right. I think it makes honestly like it's all the difference in the world. Like it's just the fact that you were intentional. Like the word of the day is intentional because
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
just like knowing that you care, knowing that you took time to text me, that you were thinking about me, and it matters, more so than trying to be flirty or being physical about it. Like the buildup, I feel like for most women, the buildup is more important than the actual act because we
Yes.
feel that the effort was there.
Yes, the effort. Yeah, we love effort. Like just try. Just try.
Right. Just try.
Mhm.
But I really love that. So were you in a relationship when you created this planner, or were you single and saw like a need for it? Because there
I
is a
was
need.
Yes, there is a need. Yes, I was in a relationship, started doing marriage counseling and therapy, and I also did a lot of research on my own about, what's needed to keep communication there and what's needed to kind of like keep the spice. And that was something that was constantly brought up. It's like schedule sex, schedule date night. Okay, it was like how to do that. Like, well, I have a goal of I want more sex, I want more communication. Where's the planner for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that just kind of like generated my thoughts, and I just thought about what all should be in it and what should it entail. Um, I got so involved with it. Actually, now I'm pursuing a degree, a graduate degree. I'm at Wyden University studying human sexuality, and I'm also enrolled in sex tech school because I like I said, I want to grow this.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I want to grow this as much as possible. I have the different versions that are coming out, but I would like to, build an app for it and digitize it. I want to make it more conducive to how we live our life and just to help facilitate those relationships because it is foundation. It's the foundation
Yeah,
for
it is.
families. It's the foundation for supporting each other, like and help you pursuing higher dreams when you're sexually satisfied and your partner is satisfied as well.
Yeah. I think especially in this industry that having that element of like realism is absolutely needed. Because you're exposed to like porn stars and you're exposed to just like just sex workers in general, and it can make you feel like, damn, am I not doing enough? Like am I doing too much? Like, but you really, like you said, you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You need to be
Hmm.
present and aware of what's going on in your current environment. And I really love that for you, and I hope nothing but success for you.
Thank
um,
you.
so, question then: have you considered going to any of like the sexuality conferences that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yes. Oh, yeah, so
great.
you went to the Sex Down South. Several of the girls that were in school with me, they were like, oh, I'm supposed to go there too. So one thing about the planner too, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but I really wanted to make it BIPOC focused. And
I
you'll
did
see,
see that. I
yeah,
did. Yeah.
so a lot of the images are, displays people of color because I just
Yeah.
think like our people are always kind of like last minute to get into this like
Wow.
trends
Our
with
people
sex. We
swear they know
we're
everything. Swear
so
they got the
reluctant.
answer.
Yeah, we're so reluctant toward having that very common like that conversation about something that's so natural, so common,
Yeah.
and so needed. And I think we just need to break those chains and free ourselves and like really like be
I
comfortable
agree.
talking about it. Talk
Yeah.
about it with your girlfriends. Just talk about it. Like address the issues you have with yourself. People just don't realize the effects. There are some like effects and real health issues that can
Yes,
come
there are.
from not addressing your sex life. You know.
Yeah. I think literally in my personal friend group, I find any reason to talk about sex, but it can get discouraging when you feel like you're in a just a tough spot, I guess. And then you have other friends that are like, "Oh, I'm having sex every single day," and you're like, "Damn, like, am I trash? This coochie trash?" Like, and then you have some friends that are like, "No, I'm not having sex like that much," or "I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z," but yeah, I think it's always interesting to talk about it with your friend group because the more people are real, the more things can, you can get help or you can get
Yeah.
advice if you want it or if you need it. So
Yeah, and
that's
it's better to get that realism because we get a lot of like a lot of people get think they're getting their education from porn because you mentioned porn
yeah,
earlier and it's not real. It's just
right.
like
Yes.
it's not real. So you have these like false perceptions of what sex is. And I mean, I'll share this just funny story. I shared it in class and people like thought it was hilarious. Like one guy I was intimate with, he like kind of like smacked me. And then I
Yeah.
was like, it was just so funny because it was so out of like his character or whatever. And he's like, well, I saw the girl didn't react like that, like she did in the movie, like you did.
Oh my
And it's just
God.
like, it's just hilarious. And I mean, I say that story because I have heard it like in my studies, just like
Yeah.
talking to people. I have heard it so many times that, they try these things, but it's not real life. So it don't go the way that they think it's going to go.
Yeah. I feel like people need to just have like a preliminary conversation and just be like, what are you into? What are you not into? Like, what would you like to try? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great. Like, and then go from there.
A
So
yes, no, maybe list. Yeah.
yeah. So my husband actually did one of those, but for like I guess you could call it kinks. And it's extensive, but it does help. The yes no maybe
Yeah.
lists do help. And I
Yeah.
actually learned about it from someone at Sex Down South. So
Oh,
shout
yeah.
out.
Um, so one thing I try to do too, I'm like really cautious of my audience. I really try to keep my audience um, in the forefront when I speak and when I write things. And I kind of wrote the sex planners too in a tone for people who just kind of like push them a little bit. People who probably were a little bit modest, are kind of shy about speaking about sex, but I wrote in a tone where they're comfortable or try to make them comfortable and like extend that invitation or give them that permission slip to like explore their sexuality and discover themselves sexually. Because sometimes I feel like in the industry, some people could be really intimidating to folks who are, you know, not having been exposed to
Yeah,
sexuality or being so open toward their sexuality. And my goal is to facilitate the conversation and open the conversation and make people feel comfortable about addressing their needs. So that's why I wrote it in a tone where it's inviting. I try to brand it where it's inviting and it's not too much to like push some people off or scare some people away, but they feel like open, like, oh, okay, it is safe. It is okay to talk about these things.
right.
It is okay to address these things. Like especially like I said in the BIPOC community too.
Yeah. It can feel very discouraging to be curious about a subject or something that you saw and then not have the confidence to like address it or ask questions about it because you're like, well, I don't see my people doing this,
Yeah.
but so I'm gonna just leave it alone. But it's like, no, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be curious and to research.
Mhm. That representation matters. Like representation matters a lot because if you don't see yourself doing it or see people that look like you doing it, you automatically assume that it's not for me. Like black
Yeah,
people don't do this. I don't see no black people in there.
yeah,
In the tones and the messaging that we take in, we like to think that we're like so free, independent thinkers, but we're influenced by a lot of things
right,
subconsciously.
right.
A lot of what we see, a lot of what we hear, we take those messages in subconsciously, and we act on it, not knowingly. But like I said, representation matters. That's why the figures in the book are colored, so you can know, like, hey, it is okay for us to talk about these things.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to speak with you and to really bring light to a very real situation, because I think that, it's easy to talk about, like I said, porn stars and like all these fun things like sex work, but then to have like a conversation and then have a solution too, because you can talk about a problem, but like, what's the solution? The solution is this book. So where you're being intentional about your intimacy and you're taking time to step back and have some accountability and say, maybe I'm not doing what I want to do, or maybe I'm not standing up for myself, or whatever. I'm not exploring, even though I'm curious. So I really appreciate that. And it is much needed. And I'm very excited to see the solo book because, I talked about this on another episode, that I didn't even masturbate for the first time until I was 21. Because
Wow.
up until then, I was like, oh, I don't need to masturbate. I have men. But like, I didn't know that masturbation was like a self journey of,
Hmm.
discovering what you like and how you
Right.
like it. And
Hmm.
it's a whole thing. So very excited for that.
And a nice little stress reliever too. Like,
Listen, stress reliever, put you to sleep, like
mhm.
all of those things. So
Good stuff. Well, I appreciate being here and having the opportunity to talk about it and spread the word. I love your show. I love what you're doing with it too, as well.
thank you so much. I love bringing any kind of like light or guidance or anything to any part of this insane world that we're exposed to.
I can't wait to hear you speak. Sex down south.
Fingers crossed,
We're putting it,
child.
we manifesting it. We getting it to it.
Yeah, I love this conversation. I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to promote you and see what else you
Yay! Definitely.
do.
Sure. Thanks.